Welcome to IndieCore. IndieCore is a federation of developers from various cryptography and networking disciplines working together to create a network owned and operated fully by the people and immune from corporate control and bias. Basically, the way the internet currently works is the following. When you type a web page into your browser, the request gets routed through an internet service provider network to the root of the internet, which is the various data centers for e-commerce, social media, video, search engines, etc. These data centers then send the requested information back to you through your ISP. IndieCore plans to remove the need for these data center servers by dividing them amongst the people and installing upon them a software package, allowing users to connect directly to each other by becoming their own micro ISP and data center, hosting all of their personal data upon their own device, and sharing a portion of it to run the network. This will greatly weaken the corporate control of the present central server system, creating the true peer-to-peer network, controlled by the people. We will examine this in multiple videos. This first video shows how to create your own independent ISP. It is just a brief snapshot of a few parts of this growing independent internet network, including detailed links on how to get involved. If you want the power back into the hands of the people, check out the links in the description and get involved.
Welcome to Orcas Island. Do you smell it? No, that's not our morning gas. That is the seawater, the salty seawater. And we're here in what's pretty much considered downtown Orcas Island. And we're waiting for Chris, who's going to take us over to his secret layer of internet shenanigans powered by Linux.
The thing I was thinking about is, do you have room for me in your car?
We could make room.
Yep. Just have to move the seat.
So we could climb in your car and we could head out to Doe Bay. We could talk on the way there.
So were you a Linux guy before you started doing the ISP thing?
Yeah, I've been a Linux guy since like the late 90s.
Yeah.
I kind of did Windows for support for a little bit and had a Mac, and then I think Windows just pissed me off enough that I discovered Red Hat Linux, and I was like, hey, this just works and you never have to reboot it. And so, and then I started writing CGI scripts in Perl.
Yeah.
And then discovered Postgres, and that's pretty much my stack. So here we are.
Okay.
All right, a really super exciting way to celebrate our 10th anniversary. We are here at a wireless ISP, and they are entirely using Linux. Now with me, I have Chris, and of course behind the camera is the Chris that you guys know. Hey Chris, thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so tell me how this company got started. From conceptually in your mind, how did it get from that to what it is today?
So first off, it's not a company. It's a not-for-profit corporation, basically.
okay.
So it was a bunch of us got together and we're sort of tired of DSL around here. And you can see there's really not any other options for internet. So we had this idea that, from way up here on the hill, we could see the mainland and get a connection somewhere and then use basically Ubiquity gear to sort of bounce around to people's houses.
Ubiquity, that's interesting. Why did you go with Ubiquity? It seems like there's a lot of companies that are making different kinds of equipment, especially for internet. Why specifically Ubiquity?
It was affordable and it ran Linux, which is kind of a nice thing because you can just, SSH in and get little other tidbits. And mostly it was the affordability because we were, had no money and let's just try to boot something up here. And I'd used Ubiquity radios in the past for some things, and they just kind of work.
Sure. And so from what it sounds like, you guys have really taken the whole community model to heart.
Yep. Yeah, totally. So we figured we needed about 25 people to commit to doing this. So, we went to a local potluck and talked to neighbors and said, do you guys think we should do this? And everybody's like, yeah. And then we said, okay, we need 25 people to make this work. And, 25 people, we eventually got sort of raised their hands. They were in the right places. And then we did it all with volunteer labor because, I'm like, I'm not doing this to make a living. I'm doing this to get better internet ultimately for myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want better internet. And if I can give it for all you guys, that's great. And then, we slowly built the thing out and then more and more people it's like early adopters and that whole, paradigm. So we got the early adopters, and then once people saw that, hey, this really works, then, over time, more people start to say, oh, can you hook me up? sure, can we hook me up? And now we're over 60, 65 people.
That's incredible. Well, Chris, I'm really excited. So show me what you got here.
So this is the water tank where everything kind of comes into, and over here on the right is where we first started. You know, we didn't have a whole bunch of money, we didn't have a whole bunch of equipment, so you know, we made this little box here is where the APC UPS lived, you know, undercover, and then this box is where all of our equipment used to live, right? Just you know, an edge switch or something, and you know, we just climb up there and you know, installed our radios. So we ended up kind of outgrowing this box, and you know, we built our little clubhouse we called over here to put everything in. So this is where everything is now.
So we notice you can tell you're outside of the center of a wireless ISP because we have this Ubiquity radio or antenna right up here that we can see.
Yeah, so we moved all the equipment in here in our little house, you know, so there's the UPS that was over there. And in the beginning, all we had was a little edge switch and a couple other things. But obviously, this is what we have now, and that's never going to fit in here.
Okay, so start with me at the bottom. I'm assuming this is your uplink.
Yes, so these two things are StarTouch's equipment. So that's the microwave link that goes to the mainland, and this is theirs. And actually, this catalyst switch is theirs as well.
Okay.
This Cisco is our main router. We had some problems with the Ubiquity Edge switch with big file downloads, so you know, we had more people, we had more money, so we got a Cisco switch. So, you know, then StarTouches comes into the Cisco switch, and then that comes up to Ubiquity Edge switch, which is PoE powers, and then, you know, these go up to the radios that are up on the tank, or the one that's out here that actually services the water tank.
Okay, and how about the Super Micro?
The Super Micro is just the Linux box that we have. It's running, I think, Ubuntu or maybe even CentOS, but it runs Nagios, Cacti. It runs some other little scripts that are kind of monitoring the network, and you know, I'll SSH into this box to do little backup things. This is actually running. Somebody else wrote a little program in Node to do a speed test once an hour, so we're doing that and logging that into Cacti so we can see, hey, StarTouch, you said we could get 100. What are we actually getting? And watching that sort of change over time. So that's kind of the gist. We got our little VoIP phone here if we want to talk to things. But let's bring out. So the other thing, which proves I'm a real Linux person, I have a System 76
Oh,
laptop.
nice! And what drove this decision?
I had, actually a long time ago, I just had a Linux desktop that I developed on, and then switched to a Mac because it was just hard to run stuff back in the 90s. And then at some point I needed my development platform to be pretty much exactly what is in production. So this is running the same Ubuntu that I have up at AWS for my business. And I can download and run everything here. It's exactly the same. And at this point now, you can run Minecraft and all these other things on here. And so you have all the same functionality that you do on anything else. And Apple, in my mind, has sort of become the new Microsoft.
Okay, all right. So so we got the System 76 and we're plugged in.
And so the other thing is this hosts a web page. So 10.0.2 is this thing, and this is a status page that just shows anybody on the outside or the inside can get to this page. It just, it's got a little help information, it's got some links here, and then I'm actually pulling forward a little bit of what Nagios does here. So current status page, here's current traffic on the link so we can see what's going on, and then Nagios' little, fun network map thingy. We have some reds here, people that we need to get installed, so they're just sort of sitting there reminding us. And then we also have a webcam up there.
Oh, nice!
That's giving us the current view of, so we could get up there and wave at it. And
nice!
Cacti, so this is monitoring all the hosts at various intervals, and when something goes down, Nagios tells us about it. Nagios is sort of a little love-hate because it's the learning curve is steep, and if you don't get it completely right, actually so the other thing that we have here is so we're in here. So this is my day job is building systems, and this is sort of my framework around financial systems for community foundations is what I'm doing now, but sort of building on top of that. So this is our Adobe Internet system that I created that has a whole accounting system in that we use to do billing, and this is all written again in Perl and Postgres on Apache. But I added this other little section in here where I'll put in all the network hosts in here, where they are physically, which means I can draw a map in Google Maps. Bloop. Right?
So cool.
With all the links. Cool. So we're sitting right up here, and then there's everybody out building out there. And then I have all the routing and all the networks and the routing in here, and you link the hosts together, and then this system actually spits out a file that this system pulls down once an hour and actually rebuilds the Nagios config. Okay. So if I went in here and added a new host, this Nagios would pick it up and then start to monitor it. And then if I disable the host there, Nagios stops monitoring. So really, I never go in and mess with Nagios anymore. It's just, not worth it. And our other friend, Cacti, but this is graphing, again, here's our total traffic at this, here's our speed tests, but we're also graphing data from all the other hosts on the network. We're monitoring the traffic they're using, uptime, latency, bitrate, signal noise from the Ubiquity radios, so we can look at something over time. Maybe somebody says, my radio's all jacked up, my speed's down. We can come in here and look at this over the past year and say, oh, look, something happened 2 weeks ago, and now your signal all went south. So, or if it's like this all the time, you're like, it's always been like this, you just haven't noticed there's a problem.
You have some nice historical.
One of the really interesting things we found, so there's a link on that map that goes across the water like 3 miles, and people were saying, it's really weird, it gets slow at certain times of the day. And where was it? It was this one. Okay, so this link shoots right over the water, and what was happening was at really high tides the signal would be bouncing off the water and the bit rate would go down. And you can compare this to a tide chart, and it matches up exactly. We were trying to figure out what it was, and somebody else looked at this and he said, that looks like tides. And it was. So when it was really...
Man, you work with some major nerds.
So there you go. It's the tides. So that is, if you have a long link and it's shooting right over the water, you're going to have some problems. But again, because we were graphing all this, you could look at this and go, that is very strange. The other thing we find is in certain places you can watch in the spring the signal strength going worse as all these trees leaf out.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right, and so you kind of go, oh, time to trim those trees, or just realize the signal is just a little not as great.
Crazy mother.
So, and what do you supply to you? So your customers have the other end of the Radio Cat 5 cable. That's what eventually terminates into their house.
Yep. A lot of people, we actually set them up with Ubiquity 2.4 Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So we'll set that up for them and configure it. And now they have 2.4 in their house. Yeah. And if they want, they can plug into that thing. And
so you're just basically putting like a UAP inside of their house.
Yep. So we are now at one of our relay points, Bob and Gail Shipstead's house. And if we look up that way, that is Pioneer Hill, which is where my house is, and the water tank is up to the right. And so the connection comes from the water tank to my house up in a big tree, and then it comes down here to... Can you see the radio up there? Did anybody see the radio? You can't even see the radio.
Oh, yeah, I can see the radio.
It's up there, painted brown, so it's totally... Yeah. So that's the receiving radio, comes down to here, and then if we come around the corner, is our access point equipment. Oh, and all the nerds are gonna love this too. This is one where we're testing out a Raspberry Pi in here, which is doing speed tests from this location and monitoring the battery voltage. And if the battery voltage goes low or off, so 24 volt power comes up through here, goes into, this is a Tycon charge controller, then that converts, and then the battery is linked into this, so if we lose power in there, the site will run off this battery for 6 hours or so. And then the Pi was supposed to alert us that power dropped in the house so that we knew to come out here and check on that before the battery dies. So this is still a little bit of a work in progress. And the other interesting thing is, so this is a HANA wireless box, 12-inch whatever, with the plate in there. And the challenge was, how do you get all this stuff in here correctly? And so what I ended up doing is designing and 3D printing this bracket for the battery and these two brackets to hold the switch up over top of that.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
And at this point now, they're on Shapeways. So if you want to buy these for your own box, you can buy them, and if you don't have a 3D printer. So
that's awesome. All right, let's take a look at this other site.
So even this one, we kind of had roped ourselves up when we were down there working on it. So there's a 900 sector that's doing 900 up this way. It's actually hitting somebody up on the top of that hill, and then some people that are back in the woods there. So that's the 900. And then on top of it is the rocket with the sector, which is hitting the people right in here.
And the interesting thing, or the advantage here, is that it's not a true like wireless mesh network. So you're not losing any quality because you're bringing back into a switch and then using that to connect everyone else.
And
up.
it's not a mesh because this is a true tree. If we cut the wire there, there's no alternative path.
Yeah, right.
It was hard enough to just get service to this person's house, let alone a redundant link all the way back to the tank.
Right, of course not. Yeah.
And then one of the things that we would really love to be able to do is from this location to go back to the tank directly instead of bouncing up there and over, because we lose a little bit in doing that. But if we could put a radio about 10 feet out there in the water, we could connect back up to the tank. But there's just enough trees sitting here that it's, I don't know, we've thought about climbing up these trees, but they're not really tall enough to get you above other things. If we were a company out here doing this, I think it would be way less received, right? I'm gonna come make money here. Right. Can you help me? Can I use your house to make money? But pretty much anybody that signs up and wants internet, we could make them a relay. And that's actually how we extended the network. We got to this, we're almost saying, oh, it'd be really great if they wanted internet. And as soon as they say, we want internet, you're like, woohoo, we can get to the next, hill or something. So, but at this point now, so we started with $75 a month, and we have enough people now, we've bought backup equipment, we've extended the network, and now the prices are going down. So we start at 75, you pay that for 18 months, and then it goes to 65, and then 55, and then 45. And even after that, we're still putting money in the bank, and we may even have to issue capital credits to people because we have all this money in the bank. And then, it's not about making money. So you're just sort of like, here's extra money.
All right, we're at the third location. This is another location where they're actually receiving the internet. And what's great about this particular location is if you couldn't quite find the antenna before, I think you can see it this time. So tell me a little bit more about this site, Chris.
So this is the site of Tom and Stephanie Tillman. Tom is one of the founding D.I.Y internet members. And we knew that from the middle of his field, we could see the water tank up there. And he said, sure, let's put a pole in the middle of our field. No problem. And this is the place of, if you've seen some of the other articles, the infamous power outage caused by the sheep. So we needed to get power out here to that pole. And so there's power back there at the barn. And temporarily, we just threw a big, huge extension cord across the field and up into the access point over here. And there's some sheep. Oh, you can see the sheep over there. The sheep would like to come over there and rub on it for whatever reason, and they disconnected it, at in the afternoon, and then the battery worked for 6 hours in the middle of the night. Oh, relay point down. What happened? Tom comes out. Oh, they unplugged it. So now we've properly trenched across the field, put in underground, high voltage, and have the thing over there. And now he's even put a little fence around it so the sheep don't get up and mess around with it. So
That's the first time I've heard of
there you
sheep
go.
taking out internet access.
Yep, out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to show us all this stuff and all the way around. You guys are doing a fantastic job. If anyone wanted to learn more about what you guys are doing here, or maybe there's somebody in the community that wanted to get involved.
Doesn't know about us already? Yeah, just look on our website, dbiua.org. And I try to do a good job of sort of blogging on that and sharing things that we've done, networking designs and, the design of that little relay box and things like that. And, if you send me a question on chris@dbiua.org, I'll get back to you when I have time.
We really appreciate it, and thank you so much for being a part of our 10th anniversary of the Linux Action Show.
We hope that you realize that for the same price that you already pay, the entire network could be community-owned. This strengthens community interaction and heightens the understanding of communication systems. If the main internet goes down, this community's micro-network still functions as an independent internet. The more communities that do this, the more impervious to authoritarian control, corporate dominance, or single-point failure the network becomes. The next video will dive deep into the D.I.Y's free, open-source software package which, coupled with this network, returns all the power back to the people. Stay tuned.